Have you ever been told that you weren't good enough to be loved simply because you were poor? Imagine giving someone your whole heart, supporting them through every bad day, believing you'd spend the rest of your life together, only to hear them say, "Love doesn't pay the bills." That was the day my boyfriend walked away, holding another girl's hand. He thought my story would end there. He was wrong. Because 18 months later, the same man who called me too poor to marry stood frozen in the lobby of the most luxurious hotel in New York, watching me walk in as the wife of one of America's youngest billionaires. But what truly destroyed him wasn't the diamond on my finger, it was who my husband turned out to be. Before we begin, let us know where you're watching from. And if you enjoy emotional stories filled with betrayal, shocking twists and unforgettable endings, don't forget to subscribe now. Let's begin. My name is Ava Carter. I'm 22 years old. And until 2 years ago, I believed hard work could fix almost anything. I grew up in a tiny apartment on the east side of Chicago. My mom worked as a waitress. My dad passed away when I was 9. After that, life became a series of overdue bills, secondhand clothes, and learning how to smile even when the refrigerator was almost empty. My mother had one rule: never let poverty steal your dignity. So I worked, every chance I got. Morning classes, afternoon lectures, night shifts at a neighborhood coffee shop, weekends delivering groceries. I slept 4 or 5 hours a night, not because I wanted success, because I had no other choice. That's where I met Ryan Brooks. Ryan wasn't rich. Not then. He was charming, funny, confident, the kind of guy who could make an entire room laugh. He came into the coffee shop almost every evening, always ordered the same drink. Large caramel latte. Extra shot. No whipped cream, eventually. He stopped coming for the coffee. He came to see me. 6 months later, we started dating. For almost 2 years, I believed I had found my future. Ryan always talked about big dreams, luxury cars, designer suits, oceanfront houses, private jets. I talked about different dreams, owning a small home, taking my mom on vacation, building a peaceful life. Looking back, maybe we were never dreaming about the same future. One Friday evening, Ryan invited me to dinner. That alone surprised me. Fancy restaurants weren't exactly our style. When I arrived, everything looked perfect. Candles, live piano music, people dressed in expensive suits. I felt completely out of place in my simple blue dress. Ryan smiled. "You look nice." "Thanks." But something about his smile felt different, almost rehearsed. Halfway through dinner, he put down his fork. "Ava, we need to talk." Every woman knows those 4 words. My stomach tightened immediately. "I've been thinking a lot." I nodded. "So have I." He avoided my eyes. "I don't think we're right for each other." The room suddenly felt silent. "What? You deserve someone." He paused. "Who wants the same life?" "I thought we did." "We don't." I laughed nervously. "This isn't funny. I'm serious." I searched his face for any sign he was joking. There wasn't one. "What happened?" He sighed. "You work too much." "I have to." "You never have time." "I'm trying to build a future." "Exactly." He leaned back. "And I'm tired of waiting." I stared at him. "So that's it?" "No. There is something else." He reached into his jacket, pulled out his phone, and showed me a picture. A young woman standing beside a white Mercedes. Perfect hair, designer handbag, luxury watch. Who is she? "Her name is Victoria. And I'm seeing her." For a moment, I honestly thought I had misunderstood. "You mean after we break up?" He slowly shook his head. "No." My heartbeat stopped. "You've been cheating?" "For 3 months." I couldn't breathe. "Why?" His answer still echoes in my mind. "Because love isn't enough." "What does that even mean?" "It means..." He looked directly into my eyes. "I'm tired of pretending money doesn't matter." I stared at him. Victoria's family owned several real estate companies. They were wealthy, very wealthy, Ryan continued. "She understands the life I want. And I don't. You can't even afford rent without working 2 jobs." Every word landed like another knife. "I don't want to struggle forever, Ava. I'm choosing my future," I whispered. "So you're choosing her money." He didn't deny it. Instead, he stood up, placed cash on the table, and quietly said, "I hope one day you understand." Then he walked away, right toward the restaurant entrance, where Victoria was waiting. She smiled at him. He kissed her, right in front of me. Neither of them looked back. I stayed in that restaurant for almost an hour, not crying, just trying to understand how someone could stop loving another person because of a bank account. When I finally got home, Mom was waiting. She looked at my face. What happened? I couldn't answer. I simply hugged her and cried harder than I ever had before. She stroked my hair and whispered, "Anyone who measures your worth by your wallet was never worthy of your heart." At the time, I wanted to believe her. But heartbreak has a way of making lies sound like truth. For weeks, I questioned everything. Was I too poor? Too ordinary? Not beautiful enough? Not successful enough? Ryan had left, and somehow, he had convinced me it was my fault. 3 months later, I stopped asking why. Instead, I asked myself a different question. What kind of life do I want without him? That question changed everything. I threw myself into work, accepted every extra shift, applied for scholarships, entered business competitions, took online marketing courses late at night. People called me obsessed. Maybe I was. Because pain can either destroy you or become fuel. I chose the second option. Then one rainy Tuesday afternoon, something completely unexpected happened. An elderly gentleman walked into the coffee shop. He wore an expensive charcoal gray suit, but unlike most wealthy customers, he smiled at every employee. When he reached my register, he noticed I was studying between customers. "What are you reading?" "Business strategy," he smiled. "Interesting." Most people never asked another question. He did. For the next 10 minutes, we talked about startups, leadership, customer service, and building companies from nothing. Before leaving, he handed me a business card. "I think you'll need this someday." I looked down. The name printed in silver letters made my heart skip. William Ashford, founder and CEO of Ashford Global Holdings, one of the largest investment companies in America. I looked up. But he was already walking out into the rain. I had no idea that accepting that tiny business card would change my life forever. For 3 days, I kept staring at the business card. William Ashford, CEO of Ashford Global Holdings, a man whose face appeared on business magazines almost every month. Why would someone like him talk to a broke college student working behind a coffee counter? I almost threw the card away. It felt impossible, like something that belonged to another person's life, not mine. Then, on the fourth day, my phone rang. Unknown number. Normally, I ignored unknown calls. This time, something told me to answer. "Hello. Good afternoon. Is this Miss Ava Carter?" "Yes." "My name is Rebecca. I'm calling from Ashford Global Holdings." My heart stopped. "Mr. Ashford asked if you'd be available for an interview tomorrow morning." I blinked. "I'm sorry. I think you have the wrong person." "We don't. He specifically requested you." The next morning, I borrowed my mother's only business blazer. It was slightly too big. The sleeves covered part of my hands, but it was all we had. Mom smiled as she adjusted the collar. "You already look successful." I laughed nervously. "I just hope they don't laugh at me." She kissed my forehead. "If they judge you by your clothes, walk away." "They don't deserve you." Ashford Global Headquarters was unlike anything I'd ever seen. A 60-story glass tower overlooking downtown Chicago. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, employees walking confidently through the lobby. I suddenly felt very small. The receptionist smiled. "Miss Carter?" "Yes." "Mr. Ashford is expecting you." She didn't even ask for my resume. That made me even more nervous. William Ashford stood as I entered his office. He smiled warmly. "I'm glad you came." "So am I." "I think," he laughed. "You remind me of someone." "Who?" "Myself." That surprised me. The man was worth billions. I barely had enough money for groceries. He invited me to sit, then asked something completely unexpected. "What would you do if someone gave you $1 million today?" I answered honestly. "I'd pay off my mother's debts." He nodded. "And then I'd invest in a business." I spent the next 20 minutes explaining an idea I'd been developing for over a year. A technology platform designed to help small family-owned businesses compete against large corporations. I expected him to interrupt. He never did. When I finished, he simply smiled. "I've heard over 300 business pitches this year. This one is different." He stood and walked toward the window. "You know why I stopped in that coffee shop?" I shook my head. "I wasn't looking for coffee. I was looking for people." I frowned. "People? I've built companies. I can always find investors. What I can't easily find is character." He turned back toward me. "You worked a full shift, studied during your breaks, and still smiled at every customer." I noticed. I didn't know what to say. "You've already passed the hardest interview." He handed me a folder. Inside was an internship offer, paid, full benefits, flexible hours so I could finish college. The salary alone was almost 3 times what I earned at the coffee shop. I stared at the paper. I don't know what to say. Say yes. I smiled for the first time in months. Yes. Life changed quickly, very quickly. Within 6 months, I was helping develop real business projects. William became more than a CEO, he became a mentor. Every Friday afternoon, we reviewed my ideas. Sometimes he agreed, sometimes he challenged every assumption I made. He never treated me like an employee. He treated me like someone capable of becoming a leader. For the first time in my life, someone believed in my potential. One evening, William invited me to dinner. Not alone, his entire family would be there. I'd like you to meet someone. I assumed he meant another executive. Instead, I met Ethan Ashford, William's 29-year-old son. Unlike the headlines, he wasn't arrogant, he wasn't spoiled, he arrived 10 minutes late because he'd stopped to help a stranded driver change a flat tire. He apologized to everyone before sitting down, then smiled at me. You must be Ava. I've heard a lot about you. I laughed. I hope only good things. My father doesn't compliment people often. So yes, over the following months, Ethan and I became friends. Real friends. We talked about books, travel, business, family, dreams. Not once did he ask how much money I had. Not once did he make me feel small. He respected my opinions, he listened. Sometimes we'd disagree for hours, then laugh over dinner. It felt easy, natural, safe. One snowy evening, as we walked out of the office, Ethan suddenly stopped. Can I ask you something? Sure. Why do you always act like you don't deserve good things? His question caught me off guard. I don't. Who told you that? I looked away. My ex. Ethan nodded slowly. The wrong people often leave scars. That have nothing to do with us. Those words stayed with me. Nearly a year after we met, Ethan asked me to dinner, just the two of us. When dessert arrived, he looked unusually nervous. Ava, I don't want to be just your friend anymore. I smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. He laughed with relief. I've been trying to find the right moment for months. You picked a good one. Our relationship grew slowly. There were no expensive surprises, no dramatic declarations, just trust, respect, and kindness. One afternoon, I finally asked him, why me? He smiled. Because when you had nothing, you were still generous. If someone is kind before success, they'll usually stay kind after it. 18 months later, on a quiet autumn evening, Ethan got down on one knee. In the same little park where we'd had our first date. Ava Carter, you've changed my life. Will you marry me? I couldn't stop crying. Yes, yes. 1,000 times yes. 3 months later, we were married in a private ceremony surrounded by close friends and family. No magazine photographers, no celebrity guests. Just love. Exactly the way we wanted it. My mother hugged Ethan and whispered, "Take care of her." He smiled. "I promise." A few weeks after the wedding, William announced a charity gala celebrating the company's newest community investment program. Every major business leader in New York would attend. Politicians, CEOs, television reporters, and hundreds of invited guests. Ethan smiled as he adjusted his tuxedo. Ready? I looked at my reflection. A simple but elegant ivory gown. The wedding ring still felt new on my finger. I took a deep breath. I think so. Neither of us knew that among the hundreds of guests arriving that evening was one man who believed he had escaped a poor girl forever. Ryan Brooks. And in just a few minutes, he was about to discover exactly how wrong he had been. The ballroom sparkled beneath crystal chandeliers. A string quartet played softly in the background. Waiters moved between guests carrying silver trays. Every major business leader in New York seemed to be there. I took a slow breath. Ethan smiled and squeezed my hand. You look nervous. I am. You don't have to impress anyone. I know. You already impressed me. I smiled. Somehow, those words always calmed me. Across the ballroom, a man adjusted his black tuxedo while speaking to a wealthy couple. His company had recently signed a small real estate contract. He believed this gala would change his career. His name was Ryan Brooks. He hadn't seen me in almost 2 years, and he wasn't expecting to. The host stepped onto the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Ashford Foundation Annual Gala. Applause filled the room. William Ashford greeted dozens of guests before finally walking toward Ethan and me. You two ready? Ethan smiled. As ready as we'll ever be. William laughed. Good. Tonight isn't just about charity. It's about introducing the future of this company. I looked at him, confused. What do you mean? He simply smiled. You'll see. At that exact moment, Ryan turned around. His eyes landed on me. He froze. The glass in his hand nearly slipped from his fingers. No, he whispered. It can't be. He looked again, the elegant gown, the diamond wedding ring, the Ashford family standing beside me. Then he noticed Ethan holding my hand. His face lost all color. Victoria followed his gaze. Ryan? He didn't answer. She frowned. Who's that? His voice barely came out. He swallowed. My ex. Victoria laughed. The girl you said would always struggle. Ryan couldn't speak, because standing 20 feet away was the woman he once called too poor to marry. Ryan slowly walked toward us. He forced an awkward smile. Ava. I turned. For a second, I almost didn't recognize him. He looked older, more tired. Ryan, it's been a while. You look. He searched for words. Incredible. Thank you. His eyes dropped to my wedding ring. You got married? I smiled. Yes. Before he could ask another question, Ethan returned with 2 glasses of sparkling water. He placed one in my hand, then wrapped his arm around my waist. Ryan stared. You must be. Ethan extended his hand. Ethan Ashford. Ryan shook it automatically, then his eyes widened. Ashford. The name finally registered. You mean? Ethan nodded politely. My father is William Ashford. Ryan stood speechless. Just then, the master of ceremonies returned to the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, before dinner, our chairman would like to make a special announcement. William stepped onto the stage. The room became silent. For 40 years, I've built businesses, but tonight, I'm introducing the person who will help lead the next generation of Ashford Global. A massive screen behind him lit up. A photograph appeared. It was me. The audience applauded. Ryan stared at the screen in disbelief. William continued. Many people know Ava Ashford as Ethan's wife. But that's the least interesting thing about her. The audience smiled. She earned every opportunity through hard work. She started as a college student working in a coffee shop. Today, she is the lead strategist behind our small business growth initiative, which has already helped more than 12,000 family-owned businesses across America. The ballroom erupted into applause. I looked at Ethan. He whispered, You earned every word. William smiled again. And beginning next month, Ava will officially become the youngest executive vice president in our company's history. The applause grew even louder. Ryan couldn't move. His mind replayed the night he had left me. You can't even afford rent. I'm choosing my future. He had, but not the future he imagined. After the announcement, guests lined up to congratulate me. Business leaders, investors, journalists. One by one, they shook my hand. Ryan watched from across the room, completely invisible. For the first time in his life, money couldn't buy attention. About 30 minutes later, Ryan quietly approached me again. Ava, can we talk? Ethan looked at me. It's your decision. I nodded. We'll be right over there. Ethan stepped away, giving us privacy. Ryan looked down. I made the biggest mistake of my life. I remained silent. I thought money was everything. I thought success came from marrying into wealth. He laughed bitterly. I was wrong. I simply listened. He continued. Victoria left me 6 months ago. I wasn't surprised. Our relationship was built on money. When the business deal failed, so did we. Another long silence. I've thought about you every day. I should have never left. Finally, he looked into my eyes. Do you think there could ever be another chance? For a moment, the ballroom disappeared. I remembered the coffee shop, the late-night study sessions, the restaurant where he walked away, the tears my mother wiped from my face. Then I smiled. Not with anger, not with satisfaction, with peace. I needed someone to believe in me. When I had nothing, you needed someone after I had everything. Those aren't the same kind of love. Ryan lowered his head. I know. I truly am sorry. I believe you. He looked hopeful. But forgiveness, I said softly, doesn't always mean going back. Just then, Ethan returned. He gently took my hand. Ryan looked at him, then at me. I hope you're happy, I smiled. I am. Not because I married a billionaire. Because I married someone who would have loved me even if we'd met in that little coffee shop a few weeks later. A business magazine published a cover story. The woman who turned rejection into a legacy. The article wasn't about my marriage. It was about perseverance, determination, and refusing to let someone else's opinion define my future. Thousands of young women wrote to me, sharing their own stories. Some had been abandoned, some had been underestimated, some simply needed hope. I answered as many letters as I could, because I knew exactly how they felt. 1 year later, my mother and I finally took the vacation we'd dreamed about for years. A small cottage overlooking the ocean. One evening, she smiled at me and asked, "Do you ever regret what happened?" I watched the sunset. If Ryan hadn't left, I would have spent my life trying to prove I was enough. She nodded. And now? I smiled. Now I know I always was. Ending narration. Sometimes the people who walk away believe they're leaving you behind. What they don't realize is they're walking away from the person you're about to become. The best revenge isn't marrying someone richer. It isn't making your ex jealous. It's building a life where their rejection no longer has the power to hurt you. Because real love never asks about your bank account before it believes in your heart. If this story touched you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs this reminder today. And always remember, the right person won't love you after you become successful. They'll love you while you're still building your future. The end.